Hey there folks, how's it going? It's been a little while. It's been 2 whole weeks, I think, which is probably the longest I've gone without posting a video here in possibly years. I'm not actually sure. Don't tend to take a whole lot of time off from working on all this stuff. However, the last couple months has been a little hectic with the type of content that I've been putting out and how long it takes to make that stuff and just how taxing that is. If you remember the 30 Days of Banjo series, maybe that's why you're even here in the first place. I almost didn't even post that. I wasn't gonna make that series. I even gave up on even thinking about it. It seemed like too much work at the time, so I decided, well, actually, at the end of December, I'm just gonna take a week off instead. And within a couple days, I got kind of bored, so I decided, well, let's see if I can finish it between December 25th and January 1st when I first posted it. So I ended up filming around 6 or 7 hours worth of footage, which then took, 8, 9 hours a day worth of editing and all of that process to get it uploaded. So great, pretty taxing, but ultimately pretty successful. People seem to enjoy that and be able to learn from it, so that's great. Fast forward, keep working on more videos, doing normal stuff, and then I decided to work on my website, making it a little easier for people to access content on Patreon, because infamously Patreon is not well organized for the type of content that I make. So I decided to take every post I've ever put on Patreon, hundreds of them, and then move those over to my website. So if you're a patron, you can go there now, and it's much easier to find all that stuff. Well, that's done now. But that probably took another 100 hours worth of just going through each post from here, putting it over here, taking this tablature, rewriting it so it looks better over here. Again, something that probably could have taken a long time. I could have spread that out over a long period of time. But during a time when I was going to take a break from working on things, I decided instead, why not do that? So that took about a week, again, of long hours. Which of course nobody asked me to do. Nobody said, hey, can you please do this? I will not subscribe if you don't do this. I won't be on Patreon if you won't do this. I don't really hear comments like that often. People want to hear certain songs, but I don't want to paint it as something that I have a duty or responsibility to do. I just feel like doing it, and then I get in too deep and I spend a lot of time on it, and it's great, but exhausting. So decided to take some time off, spent a week on that website, and then I didn't do anything for about a week. I did some practicing, but that's about it. But would you know it, I am now bored again, and it's time to get back to practicing and making some of these videos. So what happened while I was gone? Well, it doesn't really mean a whole lot in the grand scheme of things for, let's say, 99.9% of people on Earth. But interestingly enough, there are now over 10,000 subscribers here on YouTube, which is kind of crazy. Actually, I think it's 11,000 now. Those numbers are rising pretty quickly, specifically because of the 30 Days of Banjo series. That seems to be pretty popular, which is great. I think it's very cool that people are interested in subscribing and whatever that's worth on the internet in terms of currency or value. But it is pretty neat, and it does allow me to get content out to more people. So if that's helpful to them, then that's a good thing, and I hope it is helpful to them. Also, there are now 1,000 people on Patreon, which I don't think I've really ever discussed this, but when I started doing Patreon, that was not supposed to become my full-time job. In fact, it wasn't really supposed to be anything. It was just a place where I could put tablature so people could go download it, and they didn't have to ask about it. They just know that's where you go and get the tablature. But yeah, now Patreon is my job, and the thing that I spend pretty much all my time on. I practice and I work on these videos, and that's great. That's actually kind of my ideal situation. That's something I really enjoy doing, especially considering the past year, no real gigs to speak of, and not much other work, not in person anyway. So the fact that I've been able to transition online pretty much seamlessly, I couldn't think of a more convenient way to continue making a living. And of course, it's not lost on me how absurdly lucky I am to be able to do that, considering I hadn't really planned for it. I'm not really a business person, and it's not really something I was thinking about when all of a sudden the gigs were gone, and there was nowhere to go teach in person. So when those changes happened, I got extraordinarily lucky. And that's a two-way street because I received that. But if you're watching this, then you're probably one of the people that has supported me in that way. So if you are, then thank you. Anyway, I know this might not be the most interesting thing in the world to you. That's really not surprising to me. And this is a channel where I try to teach people the banjo. So let's make sure that some of this is educational real quick. Here's something that I bet you haven't been practicing all that much over the past year if you haven't been playing with other people, which most of us haven't, and that is using your capo. And I've got mine here on the 3rd fret because there are a lot of things that I don't practice with the capo on, and I don't practice with the capo on the 3rd fret, which means that when I put the capo on the 3rd fret and I try to do things that I do without a capo, then everything looks like it's out of place and I have no idea where I'm going. Unless I practice it, because as we know, you get better at the things that you practice. Well, if you don't put the capo on the banjo and practice some of those things, then you're not gonna get better at them. And if you can't do them now, well, you're not gonna be able to do them in the future unless you practice it. I know, it just kind of goes around and around, but it's true. And the way that I think about this isn't really that I'm playing specific tunes or anything in particular, it's really just that I'm thinking about, well, what is it that I usually practice out of a G position or a C position or D position, whatever it is without the capo on, that now I want to do with the capo on, where everything kind of looks different because all the fret markers are in different places. So that could be anything. That could just be playing songs that you know. It could be playing melodic scales, especially playing melodic scales up the neck that really, it looks weird compared to where you're supposed to be, especially consider this. If you're playing out of a G position, well, that's fine here with the capo. I can kind of just think of my normal G position stuff, and it feels like I'm playing in G, right? Well, as I move up the neck, it kind of starts to feel less and less like I'm playing G, and all of a sudden now I'm actually playing in B flat. So I need to know where things are in B flat. And I can't do that until I put the capo on and I actually practice it. So it doesn't have to be necessarily B flat for you. It could be A or A flat or B or whatever, or you could do it out of a C position and a D position. All these things are gonna make things a little more challenging for you. You're gonna stretch your brain a little bit, but it all gets comfortable if you do it on a regular basis. A really weird one is put your capo on the 4th fret and play it out of a D position, F sharp. You know, again, close to the capo, that's not gonna really feel that weird. It's gonna feel like what you normally do. But up here, how often are you really playing out of F sharp? Probably really, really rarely. But there's not that many combinations of all these things, so actually you can get used to them pretty quickly, and it's not a bad way to get used to where you are on the neck. So don't overthink it, don't feel like you have to do equal time in each position and in each key. Just think about where you're probably gonna play some of this stuff. For instance, if you play a tune like Salt Creek, then maybe you should put the capo on the 2nd fret where you'll actually usually play Salt Creek. Don't practice it without the capo. Maybe you practice it without the capo sometimes, but not all the time. Anyway, it would shock you at how much of a difference this sort of thing makes, especially once you start playing with other people and start using different capo positions. This is something you want to be prepared for, so you gotta practice it. Anyway, that's all for now. I've actually got another video lesson to film right now, so it's good to be back, and I'll see you next time.